summing up the results of the 285th day of the war in Ukraine. Before watching, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Happy viewing. A new blow to the power grid today. Russia launched a new massive missile attack on Ukraine. Arrivals were officially confirmed in Odessa, Kiev and Vinnytsia regions, where infrastructure facilities were damaged. In Odessa, after the strikes, all boiler houses and electric transport were stopped. Water disappeared in the regional center, and cars crowded in queues for gasoline. Pose, the head of the OVA, said that there is no electricity in Odessa and most districts of the region. In the Kiev region, according to the governor, 40% of the inhabitants are without electricity. In many regions where there were no arrivals, emergency blackouts also began. The Ukrainian Air Command stated that more than 70 missiles were fired at Ukraine, more than 60 of them were shot down. That is, according to this logic, about a dozen missiles hit the target. They were launched from the region of Volgodonsk, the Caspian and Black Seas. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation does not name the number of launched missiles, but claims that 17 objects were hit. For the second time in a row, during massive Russian attacks, missiles have fallen in neighboring countries of Ukraine. One shell landed in Moldova near the city of Briceni in the north of the country. At the same time, the Moldovan media report that the found remains of the rocket are the upper stage of the S-300 air defense system. That is, it is possible that a Ukrainian missile fell in Moldova, trying to shoot down a Russian one. However, the Ukrainian authorities have not yet commented on the incident. But in general, judging by the results, this attack does not look as strong as the previous ones. This is emphasized by the Ukrainian authorities, emphasizing the effective operation of air defense systems. However, it is worth waiting a few more days to understand what effect this bombing will have in the coming days or weeks, namely, who and how much will have no electricity. On the eve of the strike, the country's largest cities had just returned to stabilization shutdown schedules. In the evening, Ukrenergo already announced that emergency shutdowns were reintroduced in all regions. The company reports that due to the consequences of the shelling, some of the power plants will not be able to operate at full capacity for a certain time. What caused the new blow? It is interesting that this missile attack also had an informational occasion, just like on November 23, when the day before the Russian authorities of Crimea announced an attack by Ukrainian drones on Balaklava. This morning, Russian telegram channels reported a drone attack on the Engels airfield in Saratov. They stated that the drone fell on the runway and damaged two Tu-95 aircraft. Russian strategic aviation is based at the Engels airfield, which strikes at Ukraine. At the same time, this type of aircraft is also intended for delivering nuclear strikes, that's why it is called strategic. At the same time, there was information that a fuel truck caught fire at the airfield near Ryazan. An explosion occurred. According to telegram channels, the plane was damaged. At first, the Russian authorities did not officially confirm the damage to the Russian Air Force. But later in the evening, she released a statement to this effect. The Tu-95s are indeed part of the triad of Russia's nuclear forces, along with silo-based missiles and submarines. In the Russian public began to quote excerpts from the nuclear doctrine of the Russian Federation, which says that this is a direct reason for the use of nuclear weapons by Russia. Ukraine, on the other hand, comments on this blow in the already traditional style. It does not confirm its involvement, but hints that anything is possible. The Earth is round. It was discovered by Galileo. It is a pity that the Kremlin did not study astronomy, preferring court astrologers. Then they would know, if you very often launch something into the airspace of other countries, sooner or later unknown flying objects will return to the place of departure, wrote advisor to the head of the president's office Mikhail Podolyak. The situation at the front in the morning, the general staff reported that the attacks of the Russians in the areas of settlements were repelled the site and Belogorivka in the Luhansk region. Berestovo, Belogorovka, Yakovlevka, Soldar, Bakhmutsko, Bakhmut, experienced, Kleshchivka, Andriivka, Mariinka and Novomykolovka of the Donetsk region. The most difficult situation remains near Bakhmut. A gloomy sketch from there is published by Corriere della Sera. Journalists write that they could only enter the city along a country road, since the Russians direct artillery strikes with drones on large highways. But flies on any road. In fact, Russian bombs are now hitting everywhere, shells of all kinds are falling everywhere around Bakhmut with the intention of blocking all communications, the article says. The Ukrainian military escorting the journalists say that the Russian units have been reinforced with reinforcements from the direction of Kherson. These are people accustomed to combat, they do not panic when we return fire. We also note intensive preparations for a major offensive, the Ukrainians say. The scale of the Russian attack is visible from the wounded. In the hospital in the city of Lyman, where they are being taken, there are puddles of blood on the floor and heartbreaking screams coming from the operating room. According to the head physician, 28-year-old Sergei, operations are performed here without anesthesia. The reasons for this are not explained, and only in emergency cases. Basically, the hospital serves as a transit point, from which the stabilized wounded are taken further to the Dnieper or Kiev. Half an hour before our arrival, the legs of 4 soldiers who stepped on mines were cut off. One was armless, write the authors of the material. On average, more than 100 wounded are admitted to this hospital every day, most of them seriously or very seriously. Russian telegram channels today wrote that units of the Wagner PMC have advanced in Opatny near Bakhmut and are conducting street battles there. There is no confirmation of this from the Ukrainian side. In Donetsk at night there were again heavy shelling of the city center. The building of ritual services on Postashiva Street was destroyed, the Church of the Nativity of Christ near Sokol Park was hit, Sherbakov Park was shelled. It is alleged that the shooting was carried out by Grads. There are victims, among them, a 15-year-old teenager. In the afternoon, the city was again bombarded. Arrival was near the shopping center, Donetsk City. In general, attacks on Donetsk and its residential central quarters are now very intense. In contrast to the daily missile strikes, Russian aviation has become less frequent. The number of sorties over Ukraine has dropped significantly in recent months, according to a recent UK intelligence report. Russian aircraft are now likely to make dozens of sorties a day compared to a maximum of 300 a day in March 2022.